Stride Audio Show.
Presented by Speak English with Us.
You just finished saying something in English, and the other person nodded politely, but you could tell they weren't really with you.
That nod, the I'm being nice nod, not the wow, that's interesting nod.
Exactly that nod. And the worst part, your sentence was grammatically correct. Your vocabulary was fine, but something was off.
It's like watching a slideshow instead of a movie. Each slide is clear, but there's no flow between them.
This is English Stride, and I'm Maya.
And I'm Leo. Today we're talking about why your English sounds like you're reading off a script and 3 linking word tricks that'll change that.
This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. But beginners, you're welcome to stick around. It's worth it.
And if you're already B2, you might recognize yourself in today's story. That's not a compliment, but it's fixable.
Here's what we discovered. The difference between sounding natural and sounding scripted isn't your vocabulary. It's not even your grammar. It's the glue between your sentences.
Linguists actually have a name for this. It's called Cohesion Theory, the idea that fluent speakers don't just produce correct sentences, they connect them, and that connection is a learnable skill.
And later in this episode, we'll give you one tiny trick you can use today. Like, literally today. But first,
Quick question and answer fast. 3 seconds. When you're speaking English and you finish one sentence, what do you do next? A, you pause and think of the next sentence. Or B, you just keep going somehow.
drop your answer in the comments. A or B. We're genuinely curious.
And stay until the end for our Word Tour 5 expressions that native speakers use constantly to link their ideas. You'll hear them in the story first, and then we'll break them all down.
Right now, I'm guessing you're on a commute, maybe doing dishes, possibly pretending to work.
No judgment. We're just glad you're here.
And later, we'll show you how 2 simple sentences can become one smooth, natural thought. But first, let's talk about where this problem actually comes from. So let me tell you about a conversation I had last month. I was at a work event, the kind where everyone's standing around with a drink, trying to look busy on their phone.
The classic, I'm very important and also very comfortable pose.
Exactly. And someone walked up to me and asked what I thought about remote work. Simple question. I had opinions, strong ones actually.
So what happened?
I said, remote work is good. I like it. I can focus. But sometimes it's lonely. And then I just stopped. Full stop. End of transmission.
4 sentences, 4 complete stops, like a robot filing a report.
And the person nodded that nod again and said, yeah, totally, and walked away. And I just stood there, completely worn out from the effort of saying almost nothing.
That's the thing, though. You weren't worn out because you talked too much. You were worn out because every sentence felt like lifting a separate weight.
Yes, each sentence was its own island, no bridges, no flow. And the other person could feel it, even if they couldn't explain why.
This is what linguists call sentence islands. Every sentence is grammatically correct, but they don't connect. So the listener has to do all the work of figuring out how your ideas relate to each other.
And most listeners won't do that work. They'll just drift.
So let's try something. Maya, say that same opinion again, remote work, but this time I want you to freeze after every sentence, like a slideshow. Click. Pause. Click. Pause. Click. Pause. Click.
Okay, remote work is good. Beat, I like it. Beat, I can focus. Beat, I can focus. But sometimes it's lonely.
See, even reading it out loud, you can feel the gaps. It's like watching someone walk and stopping completely between every step.
And here's what's interesting. When I'm speaking my first language, I never do that. The sentences just flow into each other. I don't even think about it.
Because in your first language, you've already built those bridges automatically. You've heard them thousands of times. They're invisible to you now.
But in English, we learn sentences. We practice sentences. Nobody ever taught us how to connect them.
I remember my English textbook had a whole chapter on linking words, but it was just a list. Furthermore, moreover, in addition. And I thought, who actually says furthermore in a coffee shop?
Nobody. Nobody says furthermore in a coffee shop.
Right. So the words exist, but we never learned how to use them the way real people do. Casually. Naturally. Without sounding like a legal document.
And that's where the real problem lives. It's not that you don't know linking words. It's that the ones you know feel too formal, too stiff, so you end up not using any at all.
You end up going back to the island model. Sentence, stop. Sentence, stop.
And here's what I've noticed. When you do that, you also start to freeze mid-conversation. Because you finish one thought, and then your brain has to completely restart to find the next one. There's no momentum.
It's like driving a car and coming to a full stop at every single green light. Technically, you're moving, but it doesn't feel like driving.
That is such a good image. I'm going to use that.
Please do. Build on it. Make it yours.
And that's actually one of our key phrases today, build on. When you connect your sentences, you're not just adding more words, you're building on what you just said. You're showing the listener there's more coming. Stay with me.
And the listener feels that. They lean in instead of drifting away.
In other words, you stop sounding like a slideshow and start sounding like someone who's actually thinking out loud.
Which, by the way, is exactly what fluent speakers are doing. They're not reciting, they're thinking. And the linking words are how that thinking becomes audible.
And there's actually a phrase for that. Feeling when you're so worn out from speaking in disconnected sentences that you just want to give up mid-conversation. We'll break it down properly in our word tour later.
But first, we need to talk about what you can actually do about this, because knowing the problem is step one. Step two is a little more hands-on.
So here's what I actually tried, and I want to be honest, it felt weird at first, really weird.
Tell me everything.
I called it sentence glue. Every time I caught myself dropping a full stop between two ideas, I forced myself to replace it with a connector. Not furthermore, not in addition, just real ones. Like so, which means, and the thing is, dot, one.
Okay, but wait. I want to push back on this a little.
Really?
Because here's my concern. If you're consciously thinking about connectors while you're speaking, aren't you just adding a different kind of mental load? Instead of worrying about vocabulary, now you're worrying about glue. You end up freezing for a different reason.
That's a fair point. And honestly, yes, for the first few days it did slow me down. But here's the thing. That slowdown is temporary. It's like learning to change gears in a manual car. At first, every gear change feels deliberate and clunky, but after a week, it's automatic.
But a week of clunky conversations is still a week of bad impressions. What if you're in a professional setting? What if you can't afford to sound hesitant?
Then you practice somewhere safe first. That's the whole point of the second technique, layering out loud. You don't start in a boardroom. You start in low-stakes conversations. With a friend. With a barista. With yourself, honestly.
With yourself?
Yes. Talk to yourself. Out loud. I know it sounds strange, but it works. You're building the muscle before the race.
Okay, but I have another issue with this. You're saying replace full stops with connectors. But what if someone genuinely doesn't know which connector fits? Like they know they need glue, but they grab the wrong glue and the whole thing falls apart?
That's actually a really good challenge. And the answer is you don't need 20 connectors. You need 3, just 3 that you know cold. The thing is, for when you want to explain your real point, which means for when you want to show consequence. And in other words, for when you want to restate something more clearly.
3, that's it?
3 is enough to break the island pattern. You don't need to be sophisticated. You need to be connected.
Okay, I'll give you that. But here's my third concern, and this one's bigger. What about fluency? Because I've seen people who use connectors constantly, and they still sound unnatural. They say so basically every 5 seconds, and it becomes its own kind of noise.
Right, and that's a real trap. Overusing one connector is just as bad as using none. It's like putting the same seasoning on every dish. Eventually you can't taste the food anymore.
So how do you avoid that? Because you're telling people to add connectors, but now you're also saying don't overdo it. That feels like contradictory advice.
It's not contradictory, it's sequential. Step 1, add connectors at all. Any connectors. Just break the island habit. Step 2, which comes later, is variety. But you can't work on variety if you haven't built the habit first. You have to build on the basics before you can refine them.
So you're saying don't try to be perfect on day 1.
Exactly, and this is where most learners go wrong. They hear use connectors naturally and they try to do it perfectly from day 1. Then it feels impossible, so they give up and go back to sentence islands.
Progress over perfection.
Always. And here's the role play I want to try. Leo, I want you to be someone at a networking event. You've just asked me what I do, and I'm going to answer the old way first, the island way.
Okay, so what do you do?
I work in marketing. I manage social media. It's busy. I like it.
Stop, stop, stop. I felt that. 4 islands. 4 full stops. And honestly, I was already thinking about what I was going to say next instead of listening to you.
Exactly. Now watch this. Same information, connected version. I work in marketing, mostly social media, so it's pretty hectic, which means I'm basically worn out by Friday, but the thing is, I actually love it.
That's the same information. Word for word, almost. But it sounds completely different.
Because now there's momentum. The listener doesn't have to do the work of connecting your ideas. You've done it for them. And that's what makes you sound like you're thinking, not reciting.
In other words, the glue isn't just about grammar. It's about generosity. You're making it easier for the other person to follow you.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And when people feel like it's easy to follow you, they lean in. They stay. They actually listen.
Okay, I'm convinced. 3 connectors, low stakes practice, build on the basics. That's the framework.
And if you try it this week and it feels clunky good, that means it's working. Clunky is the sound of a new habit forming.
Okay, so we've talked about the problem, we've tried the fix, and we've argued about it a little.
Just a little.
Now it's time for the part you've been waiting for, our word tour.
5 expressions. You've already heard them in our conversation today. Now we're going to slow down and really break them apart.
These are the exact words that turn sentence islands into something that actually flows.
Let's go! Let's go back to that moment I described earlier, standing at the work event, finishing my 4-sentence answer, and just stopping. You know what I felt in that moment?
Tell me.
Completely worn out. And not from talking too much, from talking too little, but making it feel like so much effort.
That's such a specific kind of exhaustion. Worn out isn't just tired. It's that feeling after you've been pushing against something for a long time and you got nothing left.
Exactly. Tired is after a long day. Worn out is after a long battle. Like, I've been trying to explain this project to my manager for 3 weeks. I'm completely worn out.
Or we practiced that presentation 6 times. By the end, everyone was worn out.
It's got weight to it, more texture than just tired. And it's very natural in spoken English. You'll hear it constantly.
Now, here's the one that I think surprises people most, because it looks simple, but it does a lot of work. End up?
Oh, this one's everywhere.
It is. And the key thing about end up is that it carries this sense of things didn't go exactly as planned, but here we are. Like, I meant to practice for 20 minutes and I ended up talking to myself in the mirror for an hour.
That is extremely specific, and I believe you completely.
The point is, end up signals a journey. Something happened along the way. I went to the shop for milk and ended up buying 17 things. It's honest, it's human, and it connects your sentences because it implies a story.
It's a natural bridge word. It moves you forward.
Which brings us to one of my personal favorites. The thing is,
Oh, this one changes everything.
it really does, because the thing is tells the listener what I just said was the surface. Now I'm going to give you the real point. It's like a signal flare. I know I said I was fine. The thing is, I've been really struggling.
It creates intimacy. It sounds like you're letting someone in.
And in professional settings, too. The thing is, we don't have the budget for that right now. It's direct without being harsh. It softens the real message just enough.
And it's so much more natural than however, or, but the reality is, those feel written. The thing is feels spoken.
Now, build on. We used this one in Act 3, and I want to make sure it lands properly.
Because it's not just about adding information, it's about showing that you're developing an idea. I want to build on what you just said. I think there's another layer here.
It's collaborative. It says, I heard you, and I'm taking your idea somewhere new.
Which is exactly what good conversation does. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk, you're actually building something together.
And the last one. In other words,
This is the one I wish I'd known earlier. Because sometimes you say something and you can see the other person's face go blank.
the polite confusion face.
Yes, and instead of panicking or repeating the exact same sentence louder, which doesn't help you, just say, in other words, and reframe it simply.
It's a rescue phrase. The cohesion density in your speech is low. In other words, your sentences aren't connected.
Same idea, clearer landing. And it makes you sound thoughtful, not confused like you're choosing to explain, not struggling to.
So, to pull it all together, worn out, end up the thing is, build on, in other words, 5 phrases. All of them do the same job. They keep your listener with you.
They're the bridges. And bridges are what turn a slideshow into a story.
So here's where we landed today. The problem isn't your vocabulary. It's not your grammar. It's the space between your sentences and what you put there.
Or what you don't put there. Because most of us were taught to build sentences. Nobody taught us to connect them.
So this week, try just one thing. Pick one connector, just one, and use it every single day. The thing is a great starting point. Low risk, high impact.
And if you want to go further, try the sentence glue swap. Take something you said today, any sentence, and rewrite it with a connector. I was tired. I left early. Becomes, I was so worn out that I ended up leaving before anyone noticed.
Same facts, completely different feeling. That's the whole game.
And honestly, the first time you use one of these phrases and the other person stays with you, leans in instead of drifting, you'll feel it. It's a small moment, but it changes how you think about speaking English.
Because you stop thinking about English as a performance. You start thinking about it as a conversation. And that shift, that's when things actually get easier.
We're going to keep building on this in future episodes, looking at how tone, rhythm, and word choice all work together to make you sound like you're thinking, not reciting.
In other words, there's a lot more glue to come.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, which of today's 5 phrases are you going to try first and where?
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening to English Stride, and we'll see you next time.
Keep striding.
Bye for now.